Hello dear students, welcome to English class. Today we will continue the chapter The Kingdom of Fools. Till the story we have come to know that Dancingle was called to the king's court and she was declared the real culprit. When it was decided to punish her, she tried to defend herself by saying that in the killing of that man there was not her fault. She had ordered some jewelry to the jeweler, and the jeweler was delaying in making her jewelry. Therefore, she had to make a lot of rounds during that time through that street. And because of this, the bricklayer was distracted and he made the weak wall. And due to the falling of the wall, the man was killed. So she requested the king that she was not the real culprit. The goldsmith should be caught to punish as a real murderer. When the goldsmith was called, then he also tried to shift his uh, fault to the merchant, whom order was more precious than the order of the dancing girl. Then the goldsmith told to the king that it was the merchant's order which was compulsory to be completed, as there was a wedding in his house, and he requested the king that the merchant was the real culprit in this case. When the king asked who was the merchant, uh, uh, surprisingly the merchant was none other than but the father of the present merchant, whose wall was fell down on the thief. So the king called the merchant at once in his court. This time the merchant tried his level best to defend himself. He told the king that it was his father's fault, not his fault, and his father was no more than that time. So there was not a case of murder then. But the king gave his statement to the man that if he had been inherited everything from his father, his riches and his whole wealth and everything, then definitely he had been inherited his father's sins too. So when his father became the cause of the murder of that person, definitely the present merchant had to pay for this. So he was declared as the real culprit, and the king ordered to make a stake for him for his execution. When the day was execution was arrived, he was taken to the place of execution. But surprisingly, or you can say fortunately, the merchant was so weak and he was unable to fit in the rope of the stake. Then the king ordered his man to find out a person fat enough to be fit into that rope. And the man of when they caught him to the place of the execution, he requested that he was not the accused, he was just a saint, he was innocent one, but he was not listened by anybody else there. Then he remembered his guru. He thought that there was only one person on this earth who could save him, that was his guru. So when he prayed and called his guru, whether the guru came there or not, let us find out from this part of the story. As soon as he arrived, he scolded the disciple and told him something in a whisper. Then he went to the king and addressed him, O wisest of kings, who is greater, the guru or the disciple? Of course, the guru, no doubt about it. Why do you ask? Then put me to the stake first, put my disciple to death after me. So, dear students, as we have already discussed in the previous part of this chapter, that the Guru was a wise man and he was having some magical powers. By the magical powers, he was able to see in the future as well as past and present. When he realized that his disciple was calling him to save himself, he instantly appeared there and scolded the disciple and told something in his ear. He whispered something. Then he went to the king and addressed the king by calling him the wisest of the kings. And he requested the king to put him to the stake first and then his disciple the next. When the disciple heard this, he understood and began to clamor, "Me who should go first?" The king was puzzled by this behavior. He asked the Guru, "Why do you want to die? Who chose him because we needed a fat man for the stake? We shouldn't ask me such question." "Put me to death first," replied the Guru. "Why? There is some mystery here. As a wise man you must." So disciple heard this. He understood what the Guru want to say and what the Guru want to create, want which scene to be created there. Then the disciple disturbed. He instantly came before the Guru and asked the king that he should be hanged first before his Guru. And by this, both Guru and the disciple, they had a fight who should go first. The king became puzzled by seeing this behavior. He asked the Guru to tell him what was the reason why he wanted to get die. And the king realized that there was something special. "Will you promise to put me to death if I tell you?" asked the Guru. The king gave him his solemn words. The Guru took him aside out of the servant's earshot and whispered to him, "Do you know why we want to die right now, the two of us? We have been all over the world, but we have never found a city like this or a king like you. This stake is the stake of God of justice. It's new. It has never had a criminal on it. Whoever dies on it first will be reborn as the king of this country. And whoever goes next will be the future minister of this country. We are now keep your word, my lord, and put us to death. Me first, remember." So when the king asked the reason why the Guru wanted to be hanged first, the Guru took him aside and whispered that what stake he had made there, it was a stake of God of justice, and it was new, and whosoever dies on it would be reborn as a king of that country, and the next one would be the future minister of the country. And both of them, the Guru as well as the disciple, want to have a enjoyable and luxurious life as king and minister in their other coming birth. So by saying such words, the Guru convinced the king about the divinity of that stake, and now he remembered him that he should put them to death according to his promise. The king was now thrown into deep thought. He didn't want to lose the kingdom to someone else in the next round of life. He needed time. So he ordered the execution postponed to the next day and talked in secret with his minister. "It's not right for us to give over the kingdom to others in the next life. Let us go on the stake ourselves and we'll be reborn as king and minister again." "Holy men do not tell lies," he said, and the minister agreed. So when the king was there to fulfill his promise to hang the Guru and then the disciple, he was fell into deep thoughts because he did not want to lose the king to his minister about this truth of the stake, about this divine truth of the stake. And then he also told to him that he did not want to hand over this country to anybody else. So he told the executioners, "We'll send the criminals tonight. When the first man comes to you, put him to death first, then do the same to the second man. Those are my orders. Don't make any mistake." That night the king and his minister went secretly to the prison, released the guru and the disciple, disguised themselves as the two, and as arranged beforehand with loyal servants, were taken to the stake and promptly executed. So when the king told the truth of the stake to his minister, they thought of a plan, and then they told the executioner that they would send the criminals tonight. When the first man came to them, they should put him to death first, and then the same should be done with the next man. So this was the royal order. So they were warned not to create any mistake in this. The same night, the king and the minister went secretly to the prison. They released the guru and the disciple and disguised themselves as the two. Then, with the loyal servants, they went to the place of execution, and they were executed by the executioner as the king ordered them. The first, the king went there, and next, the minister. And both were executed one by one. When the body of the minister, the city was in confusion. All night they mourned and discussed the future of the kingdom. Some people suddenly thought of the guru and the disciple and caught up with them as they were preparing to leave town unnoticed. "We people need a king and a minister," said someone. Others agreed. So when next day the dead bodies were taken down to throw to crows and vultures, the people got panicked because it was not guru and the disciples' dead bodies. They were the dead bodies of their king and the minister. Now the whole country was in confusion and grief. All the night the mourn was there, and the people were thinking about the future of the kingdom. Some people suddenly thought of the guru and the disciple, and they found them when the guru and the disciple were secretly trying to leave that city. The people told them that they need a king and a minister, and other people also agreed. They begged the guru and the disciple to be their king and their minister. It didn't take many arguments to persuade the disciple, but it took longer to persuade the guru. They finally agreed to rule the kingdom of the foolish king and the silly minister on the condition that they could change all the old laws. From then on, night would again be night and day would again be day, and you could get nothing for a dodo. It became like any other place. So, dear student, when the people of that city, they requested the guru and the disciple, after many efforts, the disciple agreed, and ultimately the guru also agreed with some time. The night became again the nights and day became again the days, and the market value of everything became different according to their values. So in this way, the kingdom of fools once again became a kingdom of wise people. So in this story, we have come to know that foolish people are unpredictable and they are very tough to tackle. They are very tough to handle. The guru was a wise man, and he thought beyond the imagination of the king. He knew that if the king and the minister would be tempted, then only and only then they would be able to get rid of them and they would be able to defend themselves. The guru did the same, and ultimately he not only saved the life of the disciple but also became the king of that country and changed the life of the common people as it should be. Thank you and have a nice day. Stay home, stay healthy.